We get a huge Nick Robertson update, including his desire to not sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs has not changed at all. And we get a big report from Elliot Freeman that the Toronto Maple Leafs are actively looking for a left wing. We're going to get into this and more later on this episode, but before we start, I just want to give a huge shout out to the 4,210 of you guys that are subscribed. We're trying to reach 5,000 before the season starts, and we're going to set a goal of 4,500 by Sunday. So if you aren't subscribed yet, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be all off season in the next season, which is just 40 days away, giving you updates from all around the league. Well, that let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is major Nick Robertson update. Now, obviously, everyone understands there's a saga going on with Nick Robertson. We've seen him not really have the best career as a Toronto Leaf, continuing into the fact that he cannot stay healthy. You look at Nick Robertson going into free agency, and he said, hey, I don't want to return to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to play somewhere else. Now, we did get reports from Johnston, and he said, I think obviously at the stage of the summer, the Leafs are still working through what happened with Nick Robertson, but there's a pretty clean path for him to be a part of the mix at left wing, to potentially have a role that exceeds what he's had in the past, Johnston said. But at this stage, Nick Robertson doesn't seem inclined to sign in Toronto and is sticking to the idea that he'd like to play somewhere else. And so I think they have to kind of sort that out first, or as part of this. Now, this is a huge report coming in from Johnston on Nick Robertson, because a lot of people are speculating maybe with the Leafs needing a left wing, Nick Robertson might have looked at this team and said, hey, I'll give it one more chance. I want to grow with this team. I want to get more ice time, which he would have been in line to do. Now, with Nick Robertson, as I said, he is a tremendous player. He's a guy that's still quite young, just under 23 years old, just a couple of days away from being 23. But Nick Robertson hasn't found his footing in the team. It seems like every time he's ready to just kind of go out and break out, he deals with an injury. We can see in 56 games last year, 14 goals, 13 assists for 27 points, 96 shots, plus 4 with 11 minutes and 23 seconds time on ice. Now, obviously, Sheldon Keefe had a hard time finding where to fit this guy in the lineup, and understand Nick Robertson being mad about not getting full on ice time or as much ice time as he wanted within this Leafs team. But this is a strong team, and a team that's strong when they have Nick Robertson. When you're looking at the wingers, obviously, the top line is going to have Matthew Knies on the left wing. This is from Daily Faceoff. This is not what I'm projecting the Leafs lines look like. On the second line, you can see Bob McMahon with John Tavares and William Nylander. Third line, Pontus Holmberg, Max Domi, and Calle Jarnkrok. Now you can continue down and look at the fourth line of Dewar, David Kampf, and Ryan Reeves, but this is not a big impact line, and I don't expect Nick Robertson to even play on this line if he did return. And when you're looking at this, Matthew Knies, I think, is penciled in to be the top line left wing. This is a young prospect, their best left winger on this team right now that is ready and poised for a breakout season. A guy that would not shock me if he scored 25 to 30 goals in the next 2 years. A power forward, a guy that's good on both ends, a heavy player that's going to throw a lot of weight around, which is perfect for this Leafs team. When you look at the second line, this is where I think Nick Robertson would shine. Nick Robertson with John Tavares and William Nylander would open up so much for him. John Tavares and Nylander are both prolific assist guys. They're playmakers. They can still score, but having a guy like Nick Robertson with a lethal shot would get him more ice time and would help with his points production. Having John Tavares and Nylander setting him up and drawing a lot of the opposing defenders in their way as well. This would open up the room for Bob McMahon to slide down on this third line to play with Max Domi and Calle Jarnkrok. Now, the biggest thing with this is obviously Pontus Holmberg. You need to find a spot within the lineup. This is maybe where you see him bounce in and out of the lineup on this fourth line. Maybe he goes down to the AHL. Who really knows what's going to happen, but the left side needs to be fixed. Now, when you do look at average ice time last season from left wingers, Tyler Bertuzzi was number one with 16 minutes and 3 seconds. You can see it on the very far right of the screen with average time on ice. Max Domi came in at number 2, playing a lot of center as well, but having 13 minutes and 47 seconds. Matthew Knies, 13 minutes and 41 seconds. Nick Robertson all the way down at the bottom with 11 minutes and 23 seconds. Biggest thing with Nick Robertson and the biggest thing with the Leafs left side, Tyler Bertuzzi is not on this team anymore. You can see Nick Robertson being the second youngest only to Matthew Knies on this team. A guy that would have experience with a lot of games played, obviously not as many as people want, only playing 56 last year, but 56 games in this Leafs lineup, putting up 27 points with the lowest time on ice is quite good for for Nick Robertson. When you look at the 60 minutes with Tyler Bertuzzi, this is going to have to be split up between multiple people. This is going to have to be taken over by Matthew Knies, and that's where I think a guy like Nick Robertson could bounce up, get some second power play time, get some top 6 minutes, middle 6 minutes for sure, and really be able to show his impact on this Leafs team. With the reports coming from Chris Johnston, though, it seems like he is most certainly wanting out of Toronto, and it seems like he's not willing to change his mind. Maybe the Leafs look and try to move a guy like Nick Robertson and David Kampf with his contract to acquire a new left wing. But we also do have reports coming from Elliotte Friedman that the Toronto Maple Leafs are still eyeing left wing replacements. Now, the biggest thing, as I said, the left wings on this team aren't very good. Yes, Matthew Knies is good. Yes, Bob McMahon had an awesome season, but they haven't had that just shore power, a guy that's going to 100% produce other than Matthew Knies. Bob McMahon's still a bit inexperienced, but a great left winger that would fit perfectly on this third line. And I do think he could have a breakout campaign on the second line left wing, but the Leafs need to go out, get a veteran, get a guy that knows how to play around this league. And this is where the free agency might come in handy as well. When you're looking at free agents around the league, I'm going to work my way down this list. I'm not going to cover everyone because this is not just fully on left wingers. But you can see at the top a guy like Joe Pavelski, who can play the wing, did announce his retirement. In his 82 games last year with the Dallas Stars, he did put up 67 points. He did retire, but this would have been the perfect piece for the Leafs. You can work your way down at number 2, which is James Van Riemsdyk. In 71 games with the Boston Bruins, he put up 38 points. JVR, who was once a fan favorite in Toronto, would be the perfect fit in my opinion, but we're going to work our way down a tiny bit more. When you're looking at a guy like JVR and a guy like Tyler Johnston, yes, these guys can play a bit of wing for you. Yes, a guy like Tyler Johnston can go in center, but it's still only filling out the third line. You can keep working your way down a guy like Mike Hoffman and Match Pacioretty. Bringing in Patches would be quite funny because it almost feel like another situation where they brought in a guy like Thomas Mechanic from the Montreal Canadiens, but having a guy like Pacioretty would add some value as well on this third line. Obviously at 35, coming off his surgery, he might have his best years behind him, not putting up a lot of points in those games with only 23 points and 4 goals in 47 games. You can continue working your way down. You have guys like Blake Wheeler, Cal Clutterbuck, a guy like Matt Martin is still not signed, who was once a Leaf as well. But it's going to get interesting looking through this list who the Leafs might be able to hit in free agency, and I'm going to swing back on a guy like JVR. JVR, who we've seen play with the Boston Bruins, a team that played the Leafs in the first round, beating them in 7 once again, which feels like a broken record saying. JVR in 71 games played had 11 goals, 27 assists for 38 points, 142 shots, 14 giveaways, 11 takeaways, playing 13 minutes and 30 seconds. Obviously, getting in a guy like this to play the third line would be great. JVR is a guy that a lot of Leafs fans had watched how good he is in front of the net. Having a net front presence, a guy that can pot you some goals, still put up some assists. He's not going to be the fastest player. He's not going to go out and score you 30 goals like he has before. But having JVR, a veteran, to bounce in this lineup, to have on the third line, to add some experience to the Leafs' third line that is losing out on guys like Bertuzzi. You can see in the 13 minutes played, this would fit perfectly. Filling in for a guy like Max Domi if he's going to go a full-time center. Obviously, looking at this line, he would take where Pontus Holmberg is, playing with Max Domi and Kalle Järnkrok. Järnkrok would have to pick up a lot defensively, but obviously adding another guy that can still pot your goals and be hard to play against would fit the mold of this third line. But things are going to get interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of trades, there's a lot of free agents the Leafs can look at. What's your guys' thoughts on the Nick Robertson saga? What's your thoughts on available left wings? Who on this team would you like to see, or on free agency would you like to see? Is it a guy like JVR? Maybe he fits good. Like I said, there's a lot of guys available, and there's still so many more that could be traded for. Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, we'll get in everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. Comment of the day comes from the ventures of Jimmy Garoppolo 8827. He said, actually, we could use some draft picks. Robertson isn't going to play a big role in this team anyways. An offer sheet wouldn't be that bad at all. My only worry is maybe a team, like we've seen the St. Louis Blues do with the Edmonton Oilers, offer the lowest available. He might sign this, he might not, but if a team does offer him a low cap hit, the Leafs might only acquire a third-round pick, maybe a late pick, and if the offer sheet is low enough, it might not be any draft compensation at all as well. So it's going to be quite interesting, but what's your guys' thoughts? What would you trade Nick Robertson for? Would you trade him for draft picks, or do you like to use him in a bigger picture to go out and get a veteran winger that could fit on this team? Let us know down in the comments, and you could be like Jimmy today and be comment of the day. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. Like I said, we're going to try to reach 4,500 by next Sunday. So make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. But I've been your host, Mark. Bye and take care.